Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in this Friday afternoon. My name is Mariah Bruner. I'm UCA's Wellness Coordinator serving faculty and staff. Today we have BeWell's graduate assistant, Beth Racklin. She is a PhD student in counseling psychology here at UCA. And she's going to talk to us about stress management for the holidays. So looking forward to that. BeWell participants, you can earn 5 lifestyle rewards for this session, either live or recorded, and I'll share the process for claiming those points at the end of the presentation. So stick around for that. And so I'm going to hand it over to Beth. Thanks so much for being here, Beth.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Mariah said, I'm Beth Racklin, and I'm BeWell's graduate assistant, and I'm a big nerd, so I'm a doctoral psychology counseling student here at UCA. So today I'm going to be talking about ways that we can take control of the holidays and manage our stress. More specifically, today we'll learn how to identify holiday stress triggers and the importance of acknowledging our feelings. Next, we'll explore some stress-reducing strategies for navigating the holidays, especially during this pandemic. And then lastly, we'll end today with some mental health resources that hopefully will help you to enjoy your winter vacation. The holidays can be a funky mix of emotions, ranging from holiday cheer to stress and anxiety. Some of us may not be sure why we feel stressed during the holidays, and others of us may be experiencing new emotions this year due to challenges posed by COVID-19 during the holidays. With this in mind, now more than ever, it's important to recognize your emotions and to process them. Identifying emotional triggers is a great first step in doing this. So you might be wondering what exactly an emotional trigger is, and that's a great question. An emotional trigger is an event, smell, interaction, or really anything that elicits a strong emotional response. For example, this could be feeling nostalgic when you smell peppermint because it reminds you of sweet holiday memories, or the smell of a fresh Christmas tree could make you feel really happy. While emotional triggers can provoke strong positive feelings, they can also spark negative emotions. For example, you could feel suddenly super anxious when somebody gives you a disapproving look, or even getting really angry if somebody speaks to you in a condescending tone. Another example could be presents. While of course it's fun to receive presents, the prospect of finding and buying gifts could be a source of stress. Learning to identify these triggers is crucial because once you know what your emotional patterns are, it becomes a lot easier for you to create an environment with fewer of these triggers. But if that's not possible, at least identifying these gives you a sense of control because then you have a better understanding of your emotions and you can proactively plan self-care time for yourself to help you calm down. So I'm interested in what holiday triggers you all notice having. If you're comfortable sharing, please go ahead and either type in the chat or unmute your mic.
I'll break the ice. So for me, one of my general stress triggers is feeling like I don't have enough time. And so for me at the holidays, inevitably every year, it's like Thanksgiving is done. And then it's just right away, I feel like I don't have enough time to get ready for the holidays. So for me, that's my personal holiday trigger, is just that feeling of pressure and not having enough time.
I can definitely relate to that. And I see some nodding heads, so it seems like that might be a common theme. For me, I can especially relate to that because my dad was raised Jewish and my mom was raised Christian. So we have Hanukkah, Christmas, and then my dad's birthday is on New Year's. So it's Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, back to back to back. And so each one of those holidays has presents associated. And so it's just a whole whirlwind of trying to manage and all sorts of stuff. So definitely time management.
Yeah. Hi, Beth. Judy Huff. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here.
I think Thanksgiving used to always be my favorite time of year. It was my favorite holiday because it seemed more family centric and not, I'm gonna try not to sound so Scroogeous, but not so commercialized as Christmas can sometimes seem if we allow it to be. But then through I lost several family members, and the loss of those family members, all, long illnesses. I spent Thanksgiving literally in an ICU room, with my dad. And so then I finally started getting over, it took me about 7 years to get where, oh, yay, Thanksgiving, but one thing, we'll go on something positive that triggers a happy holiday memory are Christmas cookies. Because when I call them my kids, they're 38 and 34 now, but when they were little, we always made Christmas cookies. And when we decorated the tree, we would put on Christmas music, and we would make cookies together. And of course, this started when when they were old enough to stand up in a stool and crack eggs at the mixing bowl. So, but that's a fun holiday memory, is just Christmas cookies. I don't do them like I used to, but anyway, I wanted to share something positive after I shared something sad.
Well, I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing and trusting us with that. And I'm genuinely impressed with the growth that it sounds like you've had. And of course, like remembering those loved ones, but also finding a way to balance that grief with enjoying the present moment. So thank you for sharing.
And Beth, we have a comment in the chat. Julia said, getting all the decorations out and having containers everywhere until it's all up. Most years I can do this in 1 to 2 days, but this year it's dragging out too long. I totally can relate to that. Yes, to me, putting up the Christmas tree just means clutter and boxes everywhere. So I totally get it. Tracy said individual ornaments bring back memories. Oh, that's a good one.
Aww.
Yeah, like trigger those positive memories.
That's a really good one, actually. Whenever we put up ornaments on the tree, my parents always tell stories, and it's the same stories every year, but it's really sweet every time. They're like, this is when we lived in Bermuda, and this is from the Navy, and it's really sweet. I like those traditions. Okay, well, then I'm going to continue, but at the end of the presentation, I'm just going to leave it open to any thoughts or questions. And so if something pops into your mind, feel free to let us know at the end of the presentation. Hand in hand with identifying these holiday triggers is acknowledging your feelings. I understand that we might feel pressured to act happy and cheery because it's a holiday season, but this has been an especially wild year, and it's okay, healthy even, to grieve the loss of normalcy during the holidays this year. So again, you really don't need to force yourself to be happy just because it's the holiday season. There are lots of ways to identify your emotions, and it might take trying a few different ones out before you find one that feels good to you. So here's one approach, and it breaks it down into 4 simple steps. The first step is to pause. Take a moment to center yourself and become aware of what you're experiencing. Notice your thoughts, emotions, and how your body feels, because sometimes how our bodies feel can give us a clue of what emotions we're experiencing. So for example, if I'm anxious, my stomach usually feels really tight and kind of swirly. And if I pay really close attention, I can usually feel my heart like pounding away in my chest. The second step is to acknowledge what you're feeling. In other words, try your best to label whatever you became aware of experiencing in step 1. On the next slide, I have a feelings wheel that I like to use in therapy with clients who have trouble identifying what emotions they're feeling. And they've said that it seems like a really valuable tool. So maybe it'll be helpful for you all too. The third step is to think. Consciously explore why you think you're feeling the way you're feeling, and then brainstorm a few ways that you think you can help make yourself feel better in the moment. So if I'm feeling anxious or frustrated, one of my favorite coping mechanisms is to put in my headphones, blast music, and take like a power walk around the block. And that usually helps me shift into a better mood. So whatever you come up with as a potential solution, write it down so that you can then help hold yourself accountable. The last step is helping yourself. Follow through on one of the ideas you came up with and see if it helps. If it did, great. Then you know you have a plan for next time. And if it didn't help, well, that's okay too, because Now you know that you have a method that wasn't as effective as you'd hoped, and so you can course correct next time and try something different. So here is the feelings wheel that I mentioned. And so as you can see in the middle circle, there are very broad emotions like happy or sad or angry. And so you can kind of work your way from the middle out. So once you find an emotion in the middle ring, then you can move your attention to the center, to the second middle ring. And then you can find one of the more specific feelings that resonates with you. And then once you find that, the last step is to move to the very outer ring and see if any of the even more specific feelings accurately describes whatever you think you're experiencing. This wheel was created to be a crutch, if you will, not the end all be all answer. So if what you're feeling isn't on the wheel, that's okay too. One effective way to build resiliency is by having relationships with empathetic, understanding people. Prioritizing these healthy relationships can help you feel validated and supported, especially in these really challenging times. And the cool thing about healthy relationships is that they're a win-win for you and the other person, because both of you can feel cared for and both of you can feel understood. If you feel lonely or isolated, challenge yourself to find ways to establish a sense of community in your life. If you don't feel like you're currently part of a community, there are lots of ways to develop a social life while still social distancing. For example, volunteering your time or doing something to help others is a great way to lift your spirits, and it can give you a deeper sense of purpose. Another idea is to cook and deliver a healthy meal to someone in need, whether it's friends or family, healthcare workers, or even a local soup kitchen. One last creative way to foster relationships during Corona is to take advantage of available technology. I know that we're used to using Zoom for work, but we can use it for fun things too. So the other day, I came across a quote that I really liked, and I think that it's especially salient this year when a lot of our normal is looking very different than it did before Corona. Herculitus was a Greek philosopher, and he wrote, "The only constant in life is change." Applying this ancient wisdom to our present day, it's important to accept that traditions will probably look different than they have in the past, especially this year. With this in mind, don't strive for perfection. Find ways to celebrate creatively and safely. So for example, you could take a driving tour to see some Christmas lights that are around town. Or you could have virtual celebrations. One idea is to invite family to participate in a themed Zoom or FaceTime call where everyone wears holiday pajamas. Or you could even have an ugly sweater contest. There are lots of games that could be played virtually too, so you can invite your family and friends to a virtual game night and challenge them to a game of holiday bingo, trivia, or charades. Another idea is to have a virtual cookie or gingerbread house decorating competition. So as you can see, with a little creativity, the possibilities are plentiful. So I'm curious, what ways will you stay connected and celebrate safely during the holidays? How are you modifying your family traditions? If you have an idea that you want to share with us, go ahead and either type it into the chat or unmute your mic. I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
Hi, we're going to divide our family into groups, 2 groups, and deliver our gifts to their front door and say hi.
Oh, I love that.
And we're going to wear these t-shirts that say something about the Grinch and 2020 stinks. I forget what it is. And then we're going to maybe meet for a group picture with Merry Christmas mask on that matches the t-shirts.
Oh, that's so cute.
Social distance photo. That's what we're going to try to do.
Very creative. I like that.
Beth, in the chat, someone said drive-bys, you run out of the house to the car, exchange gifts and greetings, you run back in.
That's a clever idea. You all are lucky that you have family living in town, because my family is super spread out. So we have family in like Hawaii and New York and Florida and Colorado. And so drive-bys would be a little challenging, but we are opting to do Zoom celebrations. So there's a lot of FaceTime and video calls and teaching people how to use Zoom and all sorts of exciting things.
A friend of mine for Thanksgiving, she had all her family come and get their food outside the door, and they all got on Zoom to eat together. I thought that was kind of cool.
I like that. Aw.
Like that too. A couple more things in the chat. Someone said a family movie night with takeout, Mulan, and Chinese food. Love that. Have music blasting. Beth and I were talking about something earlier today. There, I didn't know this existed, but apparently on Chrome, there's an ability to have like a Netflix movie watching party. So you can like connect. It's like back in the day when you got on the phone to like watch a movie when you were like 12 with your other 12-year-old friend and you were like, okay, you start it now and I start it now. Well, anyway, it like syncs it for you. And so you can watch like holiday movies together on Netflix. I thought that was really fun.
I like that idea. Okay, then I'm going to continue on. But again, if any cool ideas pop into your mind, please share them at the end of the presentation. The next tip that I have for making the holidays as stress-free as possible is to consciously set aside differences. This has been a wild year for everyone, and politics and controversial topics are as polarized as ever. I'm sure you know that. And so it's important to have discussions about these touchy subjects, but just not necessarily during family celebrations. Set a goal for yourself to be understanding and show grace when or if others are upset and more emotionally reactive than usual. Remember, everyone's going through unique challenges and everyone's trying their best. With this in mind, prioritize safely making memories with your family and loved ones. One way to do this is to intentionally find neutral conversations to engage in. Another tip for setting aside differences is to have a mental plan for how you want to respond if someone says something that you find offensive or that you strongly disagree with. Some examples of things that you can say to respectfully de-escalate the conversation is you can say, it sure is an interesting time, and just kind of try to laugh it off, you know? Another idea is you can say, I understand that everyone wants what they think is best. And this is a little sassy, but still pretty respectful because it does validate that you understand that they're trying their best, but it also subtly indicates that you do not agree with the position that they're holding. And then one last idea that I had for a phrase that you can use that's less sassy is you can say, let's focus on the holidays for now, but I'm interested in learning more about your perspective at a different time. So again, it's setting that healthy boundary of like, yes, I care. Yes, let's have this conversation. But right now, let's focus on this collaborative goal of enjoying our holidays together. And so a reminder is please don't compromise on your corona safety plans out of peer pressure. It's not necessary to apologize for taking precautions while you're trying to keep yourself and your family safe. Another holiday tip is to plan ahead. It's important to make tentative plans and have backup plans in mind because there are likely to be unpredictable things that pop up. But planning as much as possible can help you feel more in control during this really busy season. Establishing a checklist and a timeline for getting things done can be really helpful, especially if your holiday stress is triggered by a lack of time management, like myself. Of course, pen and paper to-do lists are classic and effective. And so here is a link to some printable holiday to-do lists if you're interested. The link here includes specific lists such as an errand organizer, a gifting list, a holiday meal planner, and they even have a holiday budget template. But if you're more of a technology person and would prefer to organize things on your phone, there are lots of apps that can help you do that. So for example, we have Microsoft To Do. We have the Todoist. We have the Minimalist. They're really creative with these names. And then last but not least, we have Google Tasks. And so there are so many more than the ones that I showed today, but this is just to kind of get those creative juices flowing. Another idea for reducing your holiday stress is by proactively creating and sticking to, important piece, sticking to a holiday budget. In addition to budgeting, you can find creative ways to spend less money on gifts, such as considering alternatives to buying each and every one of your friends and loved ones presents. For example, you could play Secret Santa, you could make homemade gifts or food, you could invite your family to participate in a service project, or You could even skip gifts altogether and instead pool money for a donation to a favorite charity or nonprofit. COVID can be a great excuse to try something new. Boundaries are always important, and they're especially helpful during this really busy time of year. You know yourself better than anyone, and I'm sure that you can tell when you're starting to get spread too thin and feel overcommitted. Declining invitations to social events can feel uncomfortable and kind of awkward, but it's healthy to say no sometimes. Especially this year, accepting invitations when you don't really want to go could leave you feeling resentful, overwhelmed, and vulnerable to coronavirus. It's also healthy to say no thank you to excessive treats, alcohol, and other goodies that tend to get us off track of our goals during the holidays. So remember, balance is key. While the holidays are a great time to enjoy indulging, like I just said, balance is key. So maybe eat cookies and salad instead of just cookies for dinner. Many people found it to be a nice change of pace to have a low-key Thanksgiving this year. Smaller gatherings, simpler, healthier meals, and more time to relax, right? So you could think about trying this approach for the upcoming holidays too. New Year's resolutions tend to be a time when we remember our goals and feel we're inspired to eat nutritious food, to stay active, and to really focus on taking care of ourselves. But you don't need to wait until January to start taking care of yourself. So try to find ways to weave self-care into your holiday plans now. Some great ways to do this are to eat nourishing meals, get lots of sleep, incorporate physical activity into your daily routine. You could try deep breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, and journaling. And of course, it's always good to avoid excessive tobacco, alcohol, and drug use. It's also important to be mindful of how the information culture can be stress-inducing, especially with all these polarized news sources nowadays. So try adjusting the time that you spend reading the news and surfing social media. One thing that I've started doing is I don't read the news an hour before I go to sleep. And I find that I get to go to sleep a lot easier because I'm not having existential crises. So that's just a tip that's worked for me, is not right when I wake up and not right before I go to sleep. And then I feel a lot less anxious throughout the day. Hopefully the tips from this presentation help you feel happy, balanced, and healthy during the holiday season. But if you feel overwhelmed or unequipped to improve your mental health, there are professionals who are eager and available to help you. More psychologists and therapists than ever are offering online services. And so if you don't feel comfortable meeting in person, you can utilize these options. So this includes EAP, and EAP offers phone and video conference consultations. So you can go to the link right here, and that's a free resource for both you and your family. Another approach to finding professional help while creating a community for yourself is to become involved in a support group. And here is a link to a resource that has a huge list of specialized support groups, and then it has links to all of their websites. So a lot of these are done online, and so it really is like a huge community. To wrap up today, here are links to resources that BeWell has cultivated. We have a page dedicated to coping and thriving during COVID-19, which has a variety of resources, including mental health resources. So for example, we have a guide to help you notice the early warning signs of mental health problems, and we have the feelings wheel that I shared earlier if you're interested. There are resources focused on self-care, coping, and building resilience, including a self-care list specialized for those who are in quarantine. We have links to many meditations and guided yoga, as well as links to all of our previous webinars. On this page, we also have resources to help you support mental health in the workplace. And last, there are resources to help you seek professional support if you'd like the EAP. And then we also have our main resources page. We have on this a variety of resources that we hope you might find helpful, such as our calendar if you want to come to our upcoming events. We have links to Health Check 360 webinars, and we also have fitness and nutrition resources, among many others. So our hope is that these will help you enjoy your holiday season. So with that being said, I appreciate you spending your afternoon here today, and I hope that you feel excited and ready to take on the holidays. This brings me to the end of my presentation, and at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have or to hear any comments or ideas that you thought of. So I'm going to go ahead and
Anybody feel
stop
free
the
to
share.
jump in? Oh, yes, thank you, Beth. Feel free to jump in. I'm going to share my screen, but the dialogue does not have to stop. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you how to get your points for today's session. There's always that awkward delay when you start a PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, so again, 5 lifestyle rewards, either live or watching this recording. So you can either take a screenshot or photo of this slide. I'm going to leave it up for a few minutes. Or if you prefer, some people prefer it, and that's fine. You can just email us at ucabwell@uca.edu. You can use the subject line, "Take control of the holidays." And then I will send you a certificate of attendance for today. And then remember, you'll want to use either way that you choose to do it. You'll want to use the BeWell education sessions, support groups, and resource groups category to get your 5 points. So that's just an easy way to grab those points. Does anybody have any comments, questions? I'm going to put a link also in the chat for the evaluation for this session. So we do appreciate you taking some time to do that. It takes about a minute and it just gives us some feedback, making sure we're doing okay. And I can share that with our speakers. So that's in the chat for you. I'm not seeing anything, I don't think. Let me check the chat one more time. We've got a couple people, Beth, that said great tips and thank you for the great ideas. Good job. Okay, I think we will officially adjourn. I'm going to stop the recording. But if anybody wants to stay on, I'm happy to answer any questions about BeWell overall, and Beth will stay on to answer any questions about her topic specifically. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Have a great holiday break.